All right, family. All right. Welcome back to another episode of A Different View, and welcome in us who are almost to 1,200 plus strong, who believe in, love after, who seek after, hunger and thirst for that which is a different view. Family, welcome in. Today's topic, number one, we're going to keep it short today. There's really not that much to discuss. We're going to wrap up April here. As we prepare for tomorrow, which is May 1st, right? And everybody who's going to be singing their best Justin Timberlake, and we're going to be doing a lot of it. It's going to be May and all the stuff that comes with May 1st, right? Getting into the month is where it gets fun, and we will revisit some things that we talked about last year, because that was really the beginning of us talking about the months, right? And the national significances that they put on these different months, right, which are pretty impactful. Hopefully, as we've gone about doing this, y'all have enjoyed it. We really do. We hope that we can do little spin-offs of it and stuff, and take into account some of the different topics to talk about those as we go through each one of these months, right? Something that we look back into the archives, right, just to see what was going on last year when we did the month of May. I mentioned that there were 400 plus strong of us, right? And again, when we do the 400 thing, it's not the people, it's the views, right? From last year, now we say on this podcast, right, we just finished saying that we're almost to 1,200 plus strong. Last year was 400 views, family. 3 times the amount, right? I'm doing math, right? Family, thank you for your support, right? This doesn't work without people. I don't know how else to say it, which is why I keep saying it. And we're going to keep saying it because it's that real. Pass it along to your family, your friends, right? We can be found on YouTube at A Different View 80. We're on at a different view, not at A Different View. Again, the at Different View 80, the at symbol. And then, A Different View 80 is where you can find the podcast on YouTube, but on Apple and Spotify, it's just A Different View, right? Sometimes it may be a couple of different ones of the same name. Look up KJ and you will find the one you're looking for, right? Today we're going to get into a couple TV shows, right? Again, I know they call them streaming, but we're going to talk about TV shows. Again, we do this off the backdrop of a couple things. This ought to be a pretty impactful end to this month here, right? That has, let's just go over some of the things here. Excuse me, within this month, right? So you got Arab American Heritage Month. Shout out to those who are of Arabian descent. Okay, our Arab brothers and sisters have an impactful meaning to this life. Many that I have that are friends, and again, we all do that. I got friends, I got black friends. We joke on that, right? But again, people that have earned that have earned my respect because we treat them as such. They are not bombists. They're not terrorists. Every one of these groups, before you start pointing toward again, as they say, the sad Negro, they say it another way, right? But before you reduce people down to that horrible level, you got to understand they have a culture and a history that goes as far back as any other people group on the planet, right? Something that we should give respect to. Okay. Autism acceptance, my man. There's another one of these things, humble my heart, looking at different people on my social media is not only the battle with autism, but friends of those who deal with autism. And I don't really want to say battle, right? But again, you don't look at the world, because again, we had talked about autism. As a matter of fact, let's just again look up when you want to learn, family, just look up what it means. We're gonna do it this way. We're gonna say autism meaning. Let's just say it that way, right? And here is what it is. This is coming from Oxford's dictionary now. A neurodevelopmental condition of variable severity with lifelong effects that can be recognized early from childhood, chiefly characterized, okay, this is how you recognize it, by difficulties with social, or some of the ways, Because again, we put too many people in the box, and then you're looking at people like, they react to certain things that you do, right? That other children, right? Other people do not react the same way. And because we're not trained in a thing, we have not learned a thing, or don't even care to learn a thing, we disregard people. That has happened a lot in life in many people groups, right? Chiefly characterized by difficulties with social interaction, which again, a lot of people got problems with social interaction and they are not autistic. Just to put that out there, okay? Communication is another one. Again, people have difficulties communicating, and it's one of those things we're about to get into today with the TV show You. This last season that came up. For those on the podcast here who like the show You, we're gonna have a little bit of a review here. Without spoilers, I'm gonna have a little bit of a review here. By restricted or repetitive patterns of thought and behavior. So again, a neurodevelopmental condition of variable severity with lifelong effects that can be recognized. And we've seen people, before, folks, just the total breakdown where the child or the adult cannot just handle anything. A lot, I hate using the word functioning, right? But where a lot of people are actually living very well, sometimes you can't notice, right? If they have autism or not. We're just saying what it is. And where we need to be more humble and loving and respectful of, again, the various people groups around us and what we all go through, right? Lifelong effects that can be recognized early from childhood, chiefly characterized by difficulties with social interaction and communication, and by restricted or repetitive patterns of thought and behavior. Okay, that's Oxford Dictionary. All right. The TV show You, we're gonna hop right on in, and we're gonna tie some Bible verse together, so y'all get ready, right? Some of our Christian brothers and sisters are gonna have a problem with how I do this today, but you know what? It's all love, man. And if it's something that you don't agree with, we're gonna get into a thing about husbands and wives, because again, husbands and wives is the forefront of the TV show You. We started off this podcast talking about relationships. Again, relationship has very many platforms in life. It's not just one. There's very many platforms in life, right? Okay. So before people start going wild here, we're talking about the word relationship. Deals with the breakdown of the word relation. Right? So when you look at the definition of the word relation, this is what we're going off of. I'm not going off of conjecture. I'm not going off of conspiracy. I'm not going off of what I think. I'm talking about how we have been taught. That's it. Because once you start getting all these little split interpretations and this, that, and the other, we're going by book knowledge, right? And everything that you do to get understanding, and these things happen as you receive knowledge, okay? And it's not to talk down to anybody, but again, we're not looking like again, as we had spoken a couple of episodes before, talking with a buddy of mine on his podcast. We're a group of people who like to drone through life. We don't think through it. We don't process through it like we should. Much of that is because we've been bred to think that way. A lot of it is also our own selves. We're allowing ourselves to kind of be dulled. But you got to wake up on the inside here to understand exactly how badly you're being used. Or how badly, or not how badly you're being used, right? Because it goes on both sides of the thing. To rob from our autistic brothers and sisters, the spectrum. There is a spectrum of people who do things a certain way and who don't. The way it's said in the Bible is me doing what I shouldn't do, or not doing what I should do. That dichotomy, right? Relation, the way in which two or more concepts, objects, or people are connected. That connection is not just romantically. Let's take the time to look at that word real quick. Because you must break down, see, for our brothers and sisters who got a problem with For our brothers and sisters got a problem with deconstruction, man, I don't know what to tell you, okay? Some of us are getting lost in the weeds on what this is. Again, when you break down something or deconstruct something, the idea is to just not leave it broken. It's to rebuild again or broken down. The idea is to then rebuild the thing into something even better. That's the point. They break down buildings in the city, they blow them up, right? Everybody is so about Donald Trump and his Art of the Deal book and all this kind of mess. And again, because the man goes bankrupt, because that's what the man goes bankrupt and then leaves somebody else with the bill. Or like in societies where white folks move out of the neighborhood because they feel they're being subjected to black folks moving in the neighborhood with them when it's just people. But again, you fall in subjective to masses lie. So now you leave that thing totally in shambles. That's not what we after. The thing is to build, and you build by staying together, staying in that thing. You keep leaving everything, all you're going to leave is nothing but brokenness, right? I understand this is hard for folks. I get it. I've walked the road myself. The family, you got to understand, even though each person has their own choice, there are consequences or rewards to the stuff we're doing. Romantic. By definition, again coming from Oxford's dictionary, conducive to or characterized by the expression of love. Okay? Characterized, character, this is the second as a descriptive word, an adjective, right? Of, characterized by, or suggestive of an idealized view of reality. AKA, use it in a sentence, okay? A romantic attitude toward the past. Again, where you have an idealized view, something that you have, let's see, some of the similarities in this type of definition. Picturesque. They use fairy tale. We try to get away from that because this ain't no story around here. This is real life we're talking about. Beautiful, charming, lovely, delightful, pretty, idealistic. Okay? They also have unrealistic there. Right? These are some of the words. When you get away from the similar synonyms, the antonyms are like down to earth, where you kind of, again, it's more grounded. Let's see if we can look at just real quick. Because again, family, when you're talking on the subject of relationships, it's got more to do. It's got less to do, than the idea of love or romance per se. They talk about this as of a literary romance, partaking of this is from the 1650s, this adjective, romantic. Of partaking of the heroic or marvelous, right? From French, romantique, pertaining to romance. All right, so let's look at romance for a second. A story written or recited in verse telling of the adventures of a knight or a hero. This is from the 1300s. Romance. Again, looks like a French word. We know the French and the Italians, right? Our European brothers and sisters get down with romance. They got a certain way they look at it, just like different people groups do. But again, relationships have more than just romance to them. When you're talking the knight or the hero in a thing, you can have a relationship that is businesslike. You can have a relationship that is, let's see, parent to child is another relationship. There is a hero in that story, right? The parent can be a hero to that child. Again, some things we're talking about with the TV show You. Your children, I gotta go there. Lord help me say a thing today, right? You go through problems in life, family, many times. Y'all want to call it victim splaining, go for it. Because of the stuff that the parents have done. The Bible is, your Bible says that God is. Touch your neighbor one time and say God is not a man, yeah, where he should lie. Just playing, just play around with, hey man. Shout out to the black church one time, man. But again, if we running around shouting and hollering, I don't know. Numbers, right? We go to Numbers for a lot. Numbers 23:19. God is not a man that he should lie, neither the son of man that he should repent. That's telling you God don't act like humans do. This is why we got to stop blaming God for a lot of stuff and start looking at what man is doing, because this is what humans are doing. Right? Again, we know man, this is male-dominated speech, so the woman is kind of somewhere I don't even know in the ether, right? Yet we know she right at the forefront with the man. However, I digress. I digress, right? Neither the son of man that he should repent hath he said, right? They get hot in the church on man. When they start coming on, that's when that's when the band start playing. Ding, 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 ding. This is where you get all that comes in, right? And then they run around in the church for an hour, and it's truth what they're talking about. But there's such a depth to it that they miss, that we miss in our relationships, family. Hath he said, and shall he not do it? Won't he do it, y'all, right? That's where we get that from, right? Say, won't he do it, right? Hath he spoken, and shall God not make it good? Right? Another verse in the Bible talks about how God's words do not return back to God, right? To the God self. I'm going to talk a little different, right? Because, and this is normally what gets Christians going, because everything got to be he with God. You don't control the gender of God. It's God, y'all. We're following suit of the God of gods, not the other way around, right? With that said, man, in our relationships, there are certain things we keep trying to control. You can't control, family. When the parent does something foul to the other parent there, to the child, there's a reverberating effect. We see this lately. They've been talking about this, and this is no diss to Dr. Umar Johnson, right? Talking about things with not being in the child's life, right? Children that experience violence. Another one of these things I believe that is in the month of April. Yeah. Sexual assault awareness. Right. Also National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Children are affected, and you see it with adults. This is why this trash they keep talking about adults are so much better than the kids, man. What are y'all even talking about? You know, you get this with with the boomer generation to like the millennial and Generation X, and then you get it with the Generation X and millennial people with Generation Z's and Y's and whatever stupid terms that they're given on trying to, again, describe you. They could give a damn less about you, your government. They care about what you give them, not the other way around. But we keep falling for that, and it's fine. It happens. The same thing in relationships. Another one of these things that you see in the TV show You, where people believe somebody really love them when they don't. They don't have your best interest at heart. Very many times, the people that we see that have our best interest at heart, no different than in the Garden of Eden, are the ones brought to you that at the end of it all, you're going to say, that's the woman you gave me. And that's how you know something went sideways, family. Like you see in the TV show You. So we're going to, for those who haven't seen it, we're just talking about, again, we're talking about relationships one time, right? The things that bring us together, the connection points, okay? And in this case, we're talking about the romantic one. As romance is one of those things that brings us together. If Joe and Kate, right? Because these are two people in this TV show. If Joe and Kate, right? Or Kate and Joe. And I must be honest, for our You fans out there, right? This thing went down drastically over time. Can I tell you, Joe, over time, and again, this is normally what happens when a lot of mess happens in your life, whether you got something you got to work through or not. And again, we're all susceptible to this before the defense comes into mind. Oh, KJ talking down to people. We ain't doing that. That's what everybody else do. We ain't doing that over here, right? This is the different view. Because if all have sinned, and I believe that as a Christian, then all have sinned, right? So we ain't got time to talk down to nobody. If Joe and Kate, this is now, a whole lot of stuff happens in the season prior. He winds up getting married, right? Joe has been married, I want to say, a couple times in this show, right? He has a child now, okay? Again, nothing, no crazy spoilers. We're just saying he has a child now, right? There comes a point in this show, man, that you see the old trope that takes down so many relationships, Whether you're in the beginning stages as boyfriend, girlfriend, you're just trying to figure out each other, you're married, you've been married a bunch of years, right? This is where we talk about infidelity, where again, all you need is attraction. Now, people gonna keep playing this game. I've only got eyes for your daddy, right? This is what the mamas tell the kids and all. Same thing around daddy, say that only got eyes for your mama. We know everybody is staring at everybody booty out in the street. Now listen, in the context of being objective, we will say that there's probably a good percentage, let's say it that way, right, just to be fair, of folks that don't do that, right? They really do only have eyes for their spouse, right, their significant other in their life. We know, however, on the rest of that's a load of mess. Okay, and again, to each their own. We ain't in your kitchen, family, so let those defenses down to understand the thing, because again, this is what happens in this show, where people do not let down their defenses. Kate did not realize how much she is very similar to Joe, and vice versa. As a result, they build up that oh so familiar wall with each other, and as a result, it causes much drama throughout the season that we're watching. That also affects Joe's son. Where have we seen that, family? See, it's time for folks who believe a thing. I don't care if you're Buddhist, Hinduist, whatever you believe in, man. Grass clippings, I don't care, okay? It's time to stand up and start talking the truth of this thing. Stop allowing people to although we know people are going to ram their head against a brick wall, right? We know a lot of thick-headed people out there. There are a lot of thick-headed folk out there, okay? Right? And in varying degrees. Me personally, I believe a lot of folks got a lot of thick-headed in them, and whether it's 1% or 99, right? At the end of the day, man, if you could stop a person from smashing their head in that brick wall, kind of Marvel Comics Rhino style, shout out to Spider-Man and the gang, wouldn't you stop them? Again, like we read this verse here talking about the Jews getting it since they're so holy, right? Yet everybody stays pro-Israel in this war, but Jews, man, they so holy, right? They're infallible. There is none righteous, no, not one, right? But we gonna go with it, because they're God's people, right? This ain't anti-Semitic. We're talking about what's in the Bible, y'all. So if that is the case, and they're waging such a holy war, number one, you got to ask yourself the question: why a lot of those rules that we read in the Bible that we take today, especially as a Christian, was written to Jews? Again, you're believing something that came from Jewish background that you're grafted into as a Christian. That's the Bible is telling you that, right? So if that's the case, where did they go sideways, family? They had to be told by God not to do something, which means it was going to do it, or did it? The destruction of the temple happened because it went sideways, family. And we dance around things like we normally do in our family, and we incur a problem on ourselves, or we don't dance around it and we address it properly, and we incur a reward as a result. That's how this works. Let's see the note that I left here. If they'd have worked together as a team, many of the events that occur in this season could have been avoided. And that's very true. That's very true, man. One could have calmed. This is powerful, man. Now again, we say this, but again, it's time to put in remembrance, right? The purpose of the couple. I'm done on this. We need healthy relationships. So this idea we ain't gonna talk homosexual and heterosexual, I'm good on this side of the world, right? It's about creating healthy dynamic worldwide, whether homosexual or heterosexual. And for those who have a problem, so be it, right? One calms and balances the other, especially those who have naturally given impulses, aka what you see, the word is lust. Again, your strong desires, family. They're there. And while you're working and balancing them in your own life, there are people that come alongside you to help you to balance them even better. Let them in. We talked about this with this movie, Sinners. But in this case, we're talking about as the woman is brought to the man needed help. See, it's time to break down the walls, family, right? People need help. Not just a man, woman too. I don't say this is presumptuous like I know what women go through. I'm talking about what you can clearly see with your own two eyes. We both need help, family. But what we don't need is presumptuous jackasses. That's the best way of saying that. We need to be open-hearted to see each other's pain and each other's successes all the same. We got to train our senses. The Bible talks about this so much. Training your senses to know good and evil, to see the good and evil in your partner. We play this game so much like everybody got to be perfect. Ain't nobody gonna be perfect. If there is none perfect, no, not one. see again, we don't put the two in. We're not people who think. We're people who react. We've been trained to react. We got to love each other through the stuff we're going through, family. No matter how dark that thing is, the time you put up that wall is where the adversary. Now we're not talking about the one under the ground, and we're not. Again, to my Christian brothers and sisters, I'm not saying that I don't agree. I'm saying we put too much on either the devil or God, and not what we are doing. We are the ones building those walls, not God, not the devil. We are. And an adversarial mindset is in people today. They want to destroy the family, as we've said before, not build it up. Just like you got people who want to build up the family, not destroy it, right? You got to recognize what's going on here. You just got to recognize the play, family. Again, how good are we at reading the room? So there's that part. Somebody can balance the impulses in our lives, right? While the other, right, could have showed or continued the training. And, especially with men, as a man, we can talk about this. Now, this does happen the other way around. But again, we don't presume to know the other side. So we're going to talk about the fellas for a moment, right? Because again, we got Father's Day coming up, and we're gonna give the woman in our lives the roses. And then we're gonna be expecting a power tool or something like that come June, okay? So as we go for that, right? As we've mentioned, Umar Johnson, again, be involved. If you a baby daddy, be involved in your family's life. That child needs you. The mother needs you. They need it. We need each other, family, right? This is where we deal with common law. If it wasn't common law and we're talking about actual marriage and you have the whole ceremony that drains you of all your money because we got to put on a show instead of putting on a show in front of our spouse, right? So we got to have a hall and we got to have a DJ and we got to, we can do the whole thing. And again, nothing against a party and stuff like that, but they're making sure they fleece you down for every dollar, man. You ain't got to have all that. Have you a good party in your backyard somewhere, because the thing that's more impactful is the promise that you are making with your spouse, not the party. Right? Again, we not in your kitchen. This is just as your brother, your uncle, your cousin, your friend, your neighbor. Okay? We're just the opinion of the content creator. Right? We'll leave it at that because we understand these walls thick. The defenses in the mind on this subject thick, man. The other person in their life can show and continue the training that the other has to hone the skills. So see, on one end, someone has these impulses that person can bring you back and show you how to use them to your advantage instead of just quickly acting on something. The other side, we're talking about being trained, honed in family, right? And each one has their own expression in how they do this. But this is a real thing. In every aspect of life, man. Health, mental health, right? Finances, all this, man. This is why it's important. Study, man. Study. See, they put too much of a spiritual aspect on everything. We're talking in this physical world, these rules that have made this physical realm you see. Train your senses in this stuff, man. Because it will save your, not only just your life, your own relationships, right? Train it, and this is something this is a thing to us all. So your brother is not talking down to you. That I ain't got no time for that, right? Training the other to hone skills that they were naturally given. We all know that in people's lives, man. We get together with people and they're like, man, you quick on the whip. I wish you was quick like that. And then the other side of a person, they're like, man, I wish I had it. Talking about like book smarts and street smarts, as they say, right? This is not the time to look down on each other. That's the time to accentuate each other's things, y'all. One's got one, the other one's got another, but you're all part of one body. At least that's what the Christian is telling folks, right? Again, this is why we ask the question, what do you believe, family? We have to work together as a team in relationships. So now let's look here real quick. What are we at? 20 minutes? 29? We're going to end off on this, and then we're going to go on. We're just going to go on because, again, a lot of these things are already there, right? It's just time for us to walk in these thoughts and processes that are already there. 1 Corinthians 7. Now concerning the things thereof you wrote me. This is Paul talking to the church in Corinth about some things that they wrote to him for some guidance. 1 Corinthians 7 gets a little interesting, family. So again, 1, bear with me. 2, let go a lot of the defenses that you've already heard somebody teach you on this subject. So, number 1, of the things concerning that you wrote to me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. We're going to have to be honest with ourselves, and we know that this doesn't mean he's talking about when you're not married to the woman, okay? Now, again, we understand folks are going to hanky-panky, okay? There's a way in which you operate, family. I don't know how else to say in this. And take it for what you want, right? For those who abstain, so be it. Again, the second verse proves this kind of point by saying, nevertheless, to avoid fornication. Fornication, when you look at its etymology, is dealing with prostitution. The reason it's dealing with prostitution is because the more people you are screwing, the more you open up for disease. Of course, depending on who is doing, because again, there's a certain way that we said it, like we talked about on last episode, tender member, we're just going to say it that way. Again, you look in Urban Dictionary, it's going to tell it to you differently, right? Just to keep the colorful language a little less, okay? You got people who think like this, right? We don't want, as a result, you don't want excess heartbreak. That's number 2. And of course, number 3, unwanted pregnancies, family, because these children deserve a wholesome background that we can give them. Again, if you do have these things like this, stay involved in a child's life. That's not the time to up and run. That's the time to stay there in that child's life, and you can even do it as you are married to a whole other person. The blended family and all that kind of thing, it's time for that to increase. We know that, again, we've already heard and seen and studied how high the single parent home rate is in the Black community, right? It's just time to increase togetherness, family. That's how it works. That's how rich folks stay together. They have kids, they pop up kids like rabbits all over the place. But when the chips are down, no matter what they got to do, they are there for them kids. Even if it's in selfish motive, at some level, they are there for them children, right? So number 2, or verse 2, I should say, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, let every woman have her own husband. Okay, right? Let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence. You never hear the man talk this. It's always the other way around, and I wonder why. See, man, the woman and the man in a relationship are there to both be used equally in the room of activity that you so use. Okay, we'll say it that way. When you don't, you throw that thing out of whack. To show you how much of a driving factor that thing is, when you don't, you throw it out of whack, family, right? I'm just saying what it is. You take it for what you want. You take it for what you want, man. But again, this is a real thing, right? But how we've been taught, because we've been taught about sex incorrectly. This is what you got. You got a whole mixed up soup of stuff here, right? Likewise, also the wife unto the husband. See, we always go to the second half of that verse. We miss that first half. Man, you're supposed to be doing what she need done to her, just the same as the other way around, right? Maybe not. We get into 4. Sometimes people use this as control over the women, but that's not the case. The wife so you got to buy into a certain type of mindset when you're married, family. When you're in a relationship, even before marriage, you got to understand a certain thing. There's responsibility. You're a team at that point. So we've been reading these verses incorrectly. The wife hath not power over her own body, but the husband. And likewise also. See, again, we like to skip over the important parts. The husband hath not power over his own body, but the wife. And y'all got problems with BDSM? Okay, we'll keep going. Defraud ye not one another. The Apostle Paul is not talking about like holding back buckets of popcorn. And that is unless you use buckets of popcorn as an analogy for something else. Right? Except it be with consent. So the both of y'all would have to... See, we talked about this with open marriages, didn't we, family? We did. Right? Consent is what is important here. Interesting that the King James Version would use such a word, right? We're not going to look up what it means in the Greek. We'll just leave it alone for now. All right? Homework for y'all. We consent for a time that you may give yourselves to fasting and prayer. That's the only reason why. To better yourself. Whether it be like, now again, they use the word fasting and prayer. Let's not make it spooky, right? When you fast, when you're praying, communicating, right? So whether it be times of meditation, exercise, studying for school and stuff like that, sometimes you got to focus. We can't be we can't be doing Genuine Song Pony when we trying to study for class, man. Right? That is unless maybe it helps you. Maybe it helps some people. Okay, I'm no sex therapist here. We're just talking the real. All right. Let's see. Let us see. That you may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, come back together again. Right? Come back together again. Open up your hearts and understand it, family. Come back together again. Again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. Right? Again, a lot of this is very self-explanatory. People just you don't want to. You get hard in your heart, but there's a price you pay every time you do it. Right? Let go some of the walls. I know the man might be a little smelly, ladies. They might be a little bullheaded in their heart and mind, because a lot of times, sometimes we both connect on emotions in different levels. Let's not kid ourselves like we don't. Right? Even the hardest of man got something. Right? Everybody got something. Matter of fact, by the time you get around the gang member, they know very well how to push that something button to get what they want. Everybody got something. Right? It's time for us to find out. That's the issue, right? When we talk about mate selection, it's even more so important that we find people that are similar like us. You always have differences, but we look for the similarities, family, right? Again, as we have said, we know all kinfolk ain't skinfolk, but it's time. All skinfolk ain't kinfolk, but it's time to start finding out where are the kinfolk, because that's what you're after, just as much as you are as avoiding who ain't. Let's get down to this goody, because this is the part here. Okay, verse 14 in 1 Corinthians 7. This is where we're going to end. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife. Let's just be honest, right? Because the verse is talking about the unbelieving. The believing is just the same. This is talking about being, they talk about unequally yoked, right? So this is talking about this unequal yoke. And when one is a non-believer, as they say, around the believer, the wife actually has some help there for the unbeliever. This is what St. Paul is saying. And again, you get around, say, there is a saving grace. Sometimes it does not work that way. But there is a saving grace when you're, say you deal with whatever vice it might be. You put whatever it is. When somebody is around you who's not, that's kind of like a warning. That's why a lot of people like get away from folks like that, because they don't want to. They don't want to. They just want to be in their vice that they believe is helping them, right? But that person being there, being the opposite. This is why it's time for us to stand up and be counted for, family. Right? We can help people. Just saying. Again, you have to use caution and use discretion. But at the end of the day, we help people, family. Right? If they want to run away, you let them run. Don't you chase them now. We don't do no chasing over here, man. Two people are brought together. Ain't nobody was chasing the other, right? Okay. Unbelieving. Again, you choose what you do. We choose what we do, family, right? So the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. That's where we're going to stop, because I'm not going further into these verses, because it gets funky and people got a lot of defenses because a lot of misteaching has happened. But this is the key from that. The unbelieving the husband is a sanctificator, right? Let's see. You in the world, you got a lot of gunk on you. In the world, I'm using the wrong term there. You're in, this is for like your hazmat folks and all that kind of thing. You're around all this gunk in the planet and stuff, right? And you got to go into another room. The first thing you got to do is get what now? You got to get desanitized. You got to get sanitized, right? Sanctified, sanitized, same kind of thing. You got to get that stuff set away from you or apart from you. That's what sanctity, that's holy, sanctity, chaste. That's what all these words share in similarity of definition. The wife does that for the husband, and the husband does that for the wife. It's a team. It's not a competition, right? Unfortunately, we've been bred that one is better. There is no battle of the sexes by the time you get in that marriage, family. If you start going down that road, that is a slippery slope, okay? It's cool to do that thing, especially for our gamer relationships out there. And shout out to y'all, right? It's cool to do that playing like Mario Party and all that kind of thing for those who do that. But yeah, no, right? When it comes to this level, let it go. Let it go. The more that we keep fighting each other, the more we are going to lose each other. We have to work together as a team in relationships. If we don't, nothing but chaos ensues. Listening to each other and seeing both sides fully of an issue or issues takes time and an open heart to revisit topics over and over if needed, kind of like a John Wick movie where he has to see and re-see himself and what he is going through in his life. And even in the beginning of that movie where he got to dig up his stuff that he needs to be able to do something that he thought he wouldn't have to do anymore, right? For the cause of truth and love, man, right? Love for his dog, right? Love for his wife that passed, all that kind of thing, family. This is the driving force. Not out of just hurt and pain for the sake of causing hurt and pain. Trying to make things right. That's where we're going to stop today, family. Thank you for walking this road with me. And as always, and until next time, let us look out for each other. Let us love each other. And let us look to find the beauty in a different view.